Okay, so I'm Elizabeth Pollitzer. I'm director of an organization called Portia that was created in London by a group of women scientists and engineers at Imperial College. I was in the Department of Computing there for about 20 years. In those days, we were talking about expert systems and also artificial intelligence. So all this kind of sounds like, okay, I've heard all this before, but it's actually very different now. So we work in Portia on the quality of research for society and for everybody in society. So we look at biases in science knowledge, biases in innovation, and biases in how this knowledge is translated into societal benefits. And we work really on gender and the disadvantages that biases in science give to women, because historically most of the research was done on using male subjects, male animals, men, because people thought that was the easier way to do research. And so science today has got much more evidence for males and for men than for females and for women. Hence, outcomes of research are frequently worse for women. And as soon as you realize this, you also know that actually that means ethnicity, age, and all the other human differences are not taken into account, which means that science is not as excellent and it should be improved. So when we look at the world and what is happening around, we immediately look at this from the point of view of inequalities. And what struck me about the fourth industrial revolution, that is the way it is, the vision is being presented now, is how very much it is centered on the global north and the industrialized countries, and how gender blind and poor blind it is. So when you look now at what is happening when people are thinking about the future, yes, so we have two major transformational policy agendas. One is the fourth industrial revolution, which is promoted by the global north and basically countries like United States and Germany. And the other one is the SDG agenda. So SDG agenda is like a completely different world, different planet. Yes, it deals with people who have not benefited from the second industrial revolution. And we're talking here about a half a population of the world. And yet they have exactly the same aspiration for the future like we have in the north, yes. So this is for us, this has been trying to bring, so what we feel is that really, first of all, research and scientific knowledge has a place in both ambitions. Yeah? The quality of research and the quality of innovation is important for both ambitions. But at the same time, the people who are concerned about the SDGs are not really the ones who are driving the fourth industrial revolution. So we need to bring them together, yes? There's a benefit. One has to look at it as opportunities and not as a problem. And so so that's what we've really been trying to, we do events called gender summits when we bring scientists and policymakers and gender scholars and other stakeholders in science knowledge in order to ask questions just like that. Yes, what is it that, how we can do science better so it's got a much better impact on society.
Okay, great. And so you are one of the contributors to our issue on the fourth industrial revolution. And Elizabeth wrote an article called Creating a Better Future, 4 Scenarios for How Digital Technologies Could Change the World.
Right, so I'm an optimist, and I always feel that actually if we put our minds together, we can improve things. So in that paper, I tried to look at what will be necessary or what is possible to actually bring the two sides of this SDG community and the fourth industrial revolution communities together. And of course, we have opportunities now. First of all, we have a lot of knowledge about how ICTs have been applied for development so far through the ICT for development programs of the UN. A lot of it was okay and good, and a lot of this didn't really work. So we have lessons what works and what doesn't work, so that's one thing. The other one is that actually here in Colombia, there's a great initiative started called Sustainable Solutions Development Networks. This is absolutely amazing initiative that brings universities to produce research for SDGs. So there's great willingness, obviously, to produce good knowledge for SDGs. So we have a community of concerned individuals and institutions who want to change the way knowledge is done and for the good of the society. So I think we feel that, so we have opportunity, we have the knowledge makers. So the next one is how to persuade the technologists and executives in ICT companies what they can do. They really have to see a lot of problems that societal problems, environmental problems are actually great opportunities for the technologies that the fourth industrial revolution will develop. So I think we have tried to see it in a positive way, but when you try to see, of course, also part of this picture is the trade, because people have to pay for licenses to knowledge and to technologies. So we included this as another element. And then when you try to see how these four elements, that the SDGs and SDSN agenda, fourth industrial revolution, their trade and the ICT for development communities, what kind of interaction there can be between them and how they can learn from each other, that creates like 4 different scenarios.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the really cool things that your article does, is you basically you're trying to create a framework for how to understand or think about the future of these 2 separate visions, and you do so in such a way of identifying the 4 stakeholders that you've mentioned and trying to understand how they might interact and either drive change themselves or be driven by change. Could you talk us through some of your scenario analysis that you're conducting?
So the ideal scenario is a digital harmony, okay? Then everybody feels responsible for the world around, and everybody feels that everybody else is entitled to have a good future. And so everybody finds a way to adjust their own agenda in a way that it actually interacts with the rest of the world and society. So digital harmony is the one. But actually that word harmony I have picked up in Japan, because in Japan, they have a lot of problems, societal problems from the aging society, and they are thinking in terms of harmony and well-being when they're thinking about the future. So the word resonates. The other one is, of course, the gender, it's equality. When, of course, things are maybe not so well matched and not in the immediate terms. It might take time when the different major actors actually understand. And point is that where is the impact and where and how it is done. So there are basically two ways to look at it. You can have an impact, local or global. You can be inclusive or exclusive. And at the moment, the fourth industrial revolution is exclusive, yes, because it's very much concentrating on the consumer goods and productions of 3D motor cars, wearable sensors, everything that basically people in Senegal or in Rwanda, where I have been, don't have and cannot have. They don't need 3D printed cars, yes, they need other things. And so this scenario can be, so you try to balance the thing, where is the impact possible and who can make this impact. Yes? So we don't want to go all global and all inclusive, because that clearly is not possible immediately. But one might look at it from where is it that actually there are the right actors, there are the right agendas, the impact can be made, and we have enough knowledge to make this impact.
And I think your article has a lot of really interesting policy implications. And maybe you can talk briefly about the way that policymakers could use your article, or to use your article to sort of frame how they might approach policies, exclusive versus inclusive, toward whichever future is desirable. Right.
Okay, so for us, we're going to work with the kind of stakeholders and networks we already have, like in Germany. In many countries, actually doing 2 things. They trying to advance the fourth industrial revolution, and they're also trying to do something for SDGs. So just to tell us basically those policymakers whom we know, and I'm sure you will also know in your own countries and so on, that actually there is a benefit. It really is very good for them, the policymakers, to try to bring these 2 worlds together.